Is this mic on? Let's do this.
Welcome to the conversation here at Brain Advisor. We are talking positive psychology at work, and we welcome you to our live video cast stream. We're going to, as always, give some time for our participants to log on. And in the interim, I'm going to talk a bit more about what we're going to expect today. And if you have any questions, we can talk about how the technology works. We have to be conscious that there are also other listeners out there who are listening to the recorded version. So we want to get right into it. And what I'd like to talk about today is engagement. It's our main topic of conversation. We're going to break that down into, we have what is engagement. We're definitely going to have to go through a definition of that. Whenever we talk about positive psychology, anything that has to do with sciences, we always start with a definition so that we're clear on what we're looking at. When it comes to engagement as well, we also want to know about a really cool topic called flow. It's kind of like being in the zone, and backing all of the engagement research out there is strengths, using strengths-based approach, etc. So we're going to dive into strengths as well. And then at the end, we've got a bit of a case study, a personal case study that our business has just finished up with. And we'll be looking to put that on our website so people can actually have like a real live study that took place in an organization and how that looks. So for now, let's just jump back a second. We're on Zoom platform. So everyone who's joining us, who are live and the participants, the reason why we're using Zoom as a platform is because it allows for interactivity. It allows for us to have a real conversation, not just the webinar style. We have the chat window where you can log all of your questions or comments. And we also have the ability to invite you to take the mic, whether it's for audio or whether it's for video. Hey, I would love to have someone to visually see while we're building our numbers up, while we're getting better at creating this content of the videocast series. We know that people are going to come on board and share their stories. So when we throw out the main topic of engagement, it's kind of like the high-level format. However, the real richness is going to come from your stories. We want you to log in, jump on board, and tell us how do you deal with engagement at work? How do you stay engaged? Are you actively disengaged? What if you have team members? How do you maintain your team members to be engaged? This is what we're going to go through today. And hearing your stories allows us to get a finger on the pulse. Because sometimes the way science works is everything is well researched in a kind of laboratory environment. Now, things are a bit, I don't want to say sterile, but everything, all the variables are in check. However, when we get to the real deal of real life, it's not always that simple. We are coming into organizations sometimes, we're in flight, we have projects in the reds, we have mergers and acquisitions that are changing cultures, we've got downsizing, we've got so many challenges out there that can challenge people's level of engagement. For example, just the mere entrance of our mobile phone use in the office with social apps, etc., actively disengages people. I mean, you can, I would love to hear if anybody has any funny stories about being in a meeting and people are there, but they're actually taking selfies, or they're, I don't know, possibly sharing some Instagram photos, etc. So today we're here to talk about engagement. I'd like to share as well some stories of my own, maybe get people a bit more comfortable to talk about what's gone on in their life and what's gone on in their workplace. Because the real purpose of these videocasts and these podcasts are to encourage and popularize the conversation of applying positive psychology at work. To date, I still sense that there is a huge taboo on psychology at work. It's like, oh, I can't talk about that. You're going to think I'm crazy or I have mental problems, et cetera, et cetera. When what we're really talking about when we're talking about positive psychology is that study of human optimization, how we are at our best, how we work well, how we flourish with our psychology. So, quick little story I'd like to share. A couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago at this point now, I had just started a consulting contract at a big company here in Montreal, and it was a long process to go through the interview. I think I had about 4, if not maybe even a fifth. And I was fortunate enough to get the job, or the contract, I should say, and it was a senior PM role, technology as usual. And one of the most interesting things that happened, I can look back and laugh now, but at the time, it was probably a bit disengaging, because in my first week on the job, I had my kind of a client, not a direct report, but somebody who was a major stakeholder, tell me very, very earnestly, say, Jason, who do you think you are coming in here with all your fancy degrees? So, I mean, wow, like, wow. But imagine how disengaged I felt after that conversation, because I couldn't believe that I was coming in to that organization proudly bringing my strengths to assist the organization. And there were individuals who just didn't really appreciate that. They didn't think they were strengths, and they just assumed they were distracting. Why? This is the thing about psychology. It's attached to human beings. We're all humans. We can all make mistakes. We can all get confused at times, etc. To err is human. Now, I look back and I do laugh at this point, but we really want to be encouraging engagement at work. And whenever you're about to say something, whether it's to yourself or whether it's to other people, colleagues, subordinates, superiors, to keep people engaged, we want to be mindful of what we're saying or even how we're behaving. So right now, let's explore what is engagement with a definition. And then I would love to ask our participants what you think is engagement. We've got our chat box on the side that I can see, as well as, let me take the time to thank our team. We got Dan, the man behind, as moderator of this video cast. He's our resident intern at Brain Advisor. He's going to be there to assist with any technical questions. You can offer a chat out to him directly at the Brain Advisor team. And sometimes new software, you just need to get used to it. In that chat window, you're going to see an option to raise your hand, or you can just type in the chat window, I'd like to say something, because we want to get that conversation going. We want to hear you. I hear myself all day long. Honestly, I'm not that into it anymore. But let's continue with the dialogue. So I don't want to force anybody. I'm not seeing anybody putting their hand up yet in the chat window. So I'll start the ball and offer what I understand engagement to be. So engagement is like, I really think of it as being in the zone. All of a sudden, I don't really sense what's going on around me. I'm fully immersed in what I'm doing, whether it's reading a book, whether it's doing something creative, whether it's building a project plan that I'm really excited about doing. It captures my, most likely it's capturing my strengths as well. I wouldn't see what the time's flying by. I don't even really recognize it. And I'm really excited. I'm focused. Now that's my personal definition. It's not far off, though, from what many of the researchers out there would call out as definitions. What I can say is they focus more on the physiology as well. So we look at, when we break down engagement, we look at vigor, we look at vigor, we look at enthusiasm, we look at focus, we look at absorption. Now, some of those words may be a bit abstract. That's why it's important to have your own definition. I know when I'm at client sites, we ask, first thing I ask, well, what is engagement to you? So it's really important that we reflect on these discussions. Once again, if I stepped away from the abstract terms, then those real practical terms of engagement come down to being in the zone. We have, think of Olympic athletes. That's the best example. When they're, I don't know, let's say we take a swimmer and they're doing a 100-meter or something, and they just dive off the board, wham. They are not thinking about anything. They are 110% engaged. We can think of it in the office space as well. You know, you have a kickoff meeting for a new big project that has to be done at work. And you see everybody in the room. There's maybe a dozen people around a boardroom, and they're all very intent. They're taking notes, they're focused, they're listening to the leader in the room, etc. The opposite of that is people who are completely checked out. Now they're physically there, their bodies are there, but mentally they're not there. Maybe they're with stress in their head. Oh, I didn't pay that Visa bill, or oh no, I'm not gonna be able to make that meeting. Oh, I forgot to get that at the grocery store. Oh, did I drop the kids off this morning? I hope so. So distraction from engagement is really, really challenging. We want to be able to get back to the present, get back engaged, and not just for our employers, but for our own sake, because if we're disengaged, God, it's pretty boring. You're looking at the time going, oh my God, is this ever gonna end? Is this ever gonna end? Kill me now. However, when you're excited and you're engaged in something, you don't even realize the time's passing. In fact, there are studies out there that demonstrate people don't even feel their own physical ailments. So let's say you have a bad pain in your back, but those who are really engaged, once they're in it, they won't actually feel the pain at least as much, or maybe not at all. This is it's really linked as well to mindfulness, where your mind is being focused. So if you're mindfully focusing on the pain, you're going to sense more of it. If you're mindfully connected and engaged with the activity at hand, then you're in business. So for those who are just joining, once again, welcome to the conversation, Positive Psychology at Work with Brain Advisors videocast series. And we're talking with the main topic tonight of engagement. Well, I want to throw out a really big statistic out there. Does anyone want to put in the chat window, perhaps give me a bit of or call out to us and tell us what you think is the average amount of actively engaged people in North America in the workplace? Now, we have a statistic that has come out of the Gallup Organization. The Gallup Organization, you know, they're pretty serious. They've been around for a long time. I think 1935 to be exact. So the Gallup Organization, American-based research firm researching all management consulting stuff that's going on, and they have a live poll that goes out, and it gets the public opinion. It asks real deal topics like, are you engaged at work? And what they've put out, if I'm not mistaken, it's actually updated live all the time. So the last major statistic that they put out was that, are you going to guess? Do I have any guesses? I'm looking in the chat window. I'm not seeing any yet. How many people are engaged in North America at work? as per the Gallup poll. All right.
Hi, Jason. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, yes. Hello. Who do we have?
It's Evangelia.
Hello, Evangelia. How are you? Welcome to Brain Advisors Videocast. What can you tell us about engagement? How about you at your work?
So basically, lately I've been on a project, and out of my 8-hour shifts, most of it is consumed by meetings. So I would say 6 hours of it is in meetings. And what happens usually when people are running from one meeting to the next, a lot of people are not engaged or are like distracted by emails or chats, or they're going through other notes that they have to take. So even during the meetings that you have at work, people are not engaging in the conversations, or you could see people zoning out. Some people are more talkative than others. So out of this 8-hour shift, I would say like 6 hours, not all of them are engaging. So I would say like a 30 or 40% rate would be a true engagement rate, where you're totally in the zone and you're actually doing your work. So I don't know if that is right, but that's what it feels like.
You are pretty close. 30% is the active engagement in the workplace, the statistic that comes out of the Gallup poll. So that means we've got 70% of the pie that is either disengaged or worse, actively disengaged. And these are people who are so disgruntled for whatever reason that they're actively sabotaging the engagement of others at work. You know, it's that misery loves company scenario where, well, if I'm not happy at work and I'm not feeling good, well, I'm going to make sure that I take everyone down with me. So it's intriguing that you as well, Evangelia, feel and sense the same thing in your organization. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that.
No problem.
And like Evangelia, if any of you have any comments at all, hey, jump right in. If you can't raise your hand, just put in the chat window and we'll give you the mic, because at the start we mute everyone's mic. It's kind of normal. It's part of our housekeeping routine, but we're happy to share that mic because we want to grow the conversation. We want to know what's happening in the real world. We want to see and hear and sense and feel and talk about it all. So back to the Gallup Organization, when we take this 70% of working North Americans and we apply it to maybe a bottom dollar discussion, what we're looking at is another recent poll from the US, so not necessarily a Canadian statistic, but they're projecting that the disengaged workforce is estimated at around, are you ready? At around 300 billion annually in productivity losses. So this is why I feel so passionate about sharing this knowledge out there. It's a bit of a catch-22. I do understand that, because some people, like the percentage within the pie of disengaged or actively disengaged people, they want to be disengaged because they're probably engaged with something else. Maybe they're more engaged with, I don't know, it could be taking care of their cats at home. It could be they have a side business going. It could be that for whatever reason that they are absolutely not interested in engagement. Now, I'm not necessarily here to address that section of the pie. Hopefully the organization is already addressing that, because that's literally a huge leak. I mean, it's worth it. We're talking about a rotten apple scenario that, if not dealt with, can actively corrupt the rest of the workforce. What I want to look at is that the rest of the pie. So not the 30% that's engaged, not the, I think it's maybe 15 or 20 that are actively disengaged, but the remainder, this big part, we'll say 60%, or let's say 50%, who are just disengaged. Why? I mean, if you have any reasons, we just heard from Evangelia about meetings. Meetings definitely can be disengaging. So what we want to do is, or what we can do, is take on some interesting practices that are coming out of the science of positive psychology to apply them for ourselves or for our teams to regain that level of engagement at work. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat box. What do we got? Okay, no, not a question yet. So we're back on engagement. Let's just jump right into the practices. Actually, I'm going to share, I'm going to screen share. I put together, and if you don't mind, let me just switch. I think you're going to like this. So this is our tonight's topic. What is engagement, which we've discussed. I still would have loved to have heard from more of you, but no worries. Getting into flow. This is what I like to talk about. Now, flow is a very intriguing concept that has come out of the research from a professor named, or researcher named Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, Hungarian, and a brilliant man. One of the things I have the most fun with is that when I have my workshops, I put the name on the board, and if anyone can actually pronounce it properly, I buy them a coffee, because honestly, it's a hard one out there. So Dr. Csikszentmihalyi researched in-depthly this state of flow from and it also bleeds out of sports psychology, and there's many organizational psychology. So all of these, psychology is pretty huge. I mean, there's a huge part that's obviously looking at all the mental illnesses, etc. But there are also many outside of that that are looking into, like sports psychology, for example, would definitely zone in on performance and flow and engagement. This particular state of flow was researched by Dr. Csikszentmihalyi, and what he put forth in his findings was really cool, because it gives us the conditions to work with. So let's say I just asked somebody, hey, you look like you were in the zone when you were doing that work, and maybe they said, yeah, you're right, I didn't even realize how much time was, I just was loving what I was doing. Now, if I asked you to get back into that state, like go, 1, 2, 3, get into flow, how would you do it? Most people don't really know that. They don't, because it's not something that it's actually a point in time that almost defies space-time, because 1 minute you're there and 1 minute you're in flow, and the next minute you're out of it. You don't really recognize when you're getting out or when you're getting in, but you know when you're in it, and you know when you're out of it. But getting there and getting out, those are blurred lines. Now, what Dr. Csikszentmihalyi put forward were these conditions that can actually set the tone for us to get into flow better, or get into the zone better. And we have this very creative heuristic you can see on my slide, where his research converges on 2 axes. So what we're looking at is, how challenged are you at what you're doing? And how much skill do you have in what you're doing? So, which, I don't know, I'm sorry, but I think this is brilliant in the sense that who's sitting there thinking, you know what? Maybe I'm too skilled for what I'm doing, or maybe I'm not skilled enough. I mean, this is the conversation I would love to know. Are leaders and managers out there taking the time to reflect in between meetings, whether or not the work that their workforce has is in that sweet spot to get them into flow, to get them into the engagement that we all want them to be in? So let's say we took an example. Someone driving a delivery truck. I don't know why I'm using such a little boring example, but I like to keep it simple. So, delivery truck. Person's been driving for, oh, I don't know, 20 years. They are highly skilled at driving. And the challenge, you know what? They actually know where they're going. They've done this route so many times, they can do it in their sleep. So now what we see is if we're looking at plotting them on this heuristic diagram in front, then we see low level of challenge on the x-axis and low level of and high level of skill on the y-axis. Means that this driver is going to be driving around probably in a state of relaxation, maybe so relaxed, like it's almost like, yeah man, no worries, just driving around. But it's not necessarily going to put them in that peak performance state. They may not feel that they're in the zone. They may be so relaxed that they're bouncing in and out. They're looking at their watches, they're listening to the radio, etc. Let's say we up that up a bit. We took that same example of the driver who is driving she is driving the delivery truck, and she's only been driving maybe a year. She's good. She's getting very good at it. She's developed her skill, and she's on board with it. And the challenge for her is also very, very high because she's driving in a new city that she doesn't really know much about. She doesn't know all of the, it could be lots of one-way streets, etc. And her GPS is not always functioning. So what we see in that scenario is we have the same driver who's still at a state of high skill, in which we can test someone's skill level. We know who are skilled and who are not skilled. Especially if you're a leader or manager or you're measuring yourself, you can assess this. So we have her on the y-axis in high skill level. Now, because she's in that new city, then she's got the high level of challenge, which is going to put her up into that flow state. So now imagine she's there, she's driving, she's so focused because she knows this is a challenge because she's never been in this city before. But she's okay, she's cool, she got 10 and 2 and she's on board, she knows what she's doing, whatever. Next thing you know, she's probably done her route, doesn't even know that her shift's over, and has gone home very energetic because she's had an engaged day that did not drain her. When we are disengaged, let's not kid ourselves, disengagement is very, very draining. If we went back to Evangelia's discussion, going from meeting to meeting all the time, yeah, it's like totally disengaged. And that expectation of having to know from one meeting to the next what's going on the spot, in the fly, without even having any time to reflect or to prep or to, I don't know, take a bio break, maybe. We are human beings and organic after all. So hopefully we can grow this conversation around things like challenging people more, or making sure that their skill level is proper to guide individuals in the workplace back into this state of flow where they feel more engaged. And other conditions that go along with Csikszentmihalyi's findings are that there needs to be a high level of focus already. So, if we go back to the driver example, she doesn't have the radio blasting on heavy metal. She doesn't, she's clearly not driving and Facebooking at the same time. So the concept of focus is married up very well with engagement. We want to disable all distractions. We want to turn our phones down, put them in airplane mode, close our laptops, perhaps really get into it and focused if we're in a meeting. Also feedback. This was another good one that comes from his findings, in the sense that we want to have a constant feedback loop. So are we doing well while we're doing? While the driver is driving, is there some feedback loop that's giving her, like she's meeting at each point on her route, she's getting there on time. That is feedback loop saying, you're doing the right thing, you're doing the right thing. And if for some reason she wasn't, if someone was beeping, honking, that's feedback that something needs to change, and change it to get back into the zone. So focus and feedback, the two F's that are very important here. We also would need, like anything, we need a clear vision. We need a clear goal. What is the purpose of what we're doing, and where are we getting, where do we have to go to? If people don't see that, if you don't see that, it becomes an obstacle because you don't know where you're going. If we went back to the driver scenario, you're delivering stuff, but you don't know where you're going. Good luck with that. I don't think it's going to work. You're probably not going to be engaged. You're going to be very, dare I say, annoyed because you don't know where you're going. Sense of control. This is an interesting one. This is more if someone's telling you what to do all the time, in the sense that they're not allowing you to have some control over how you're doing what you're doing, like the task at hand. It's a bit, I want to say, almost a bit of autonomy involved. But if I was on a CB, or if I was talking on a speakerphone and constantly telling this driver what she's doing or what she isn't doing, and trying to control the way she's driving her delivery truck, no, she's not going to be engaged. This comes down to micromanagement, really not, especially for knowledge workers or people with high self-confidence, micromanagement doesn't work. Completely opposite of that, disengages people. So having this sense of control over what you're doing and that purpose, like, you're doing this because you want. You're in that meeting because you want to be a professional at your job, and you have that project and you're in that meeting, and this is just as much about you as it is about the organization. Engagement's at every level. Starts with yourself, like everything starts with yourself and goes up. So I talked about the delivery truck example. I just want to, because what I see a lot in the workplace is also around that quadrant, upper left quadrant of our little heuristic here, that anxiety area. And this happens when the challenge is way too high and people are not skilled enough. Now, I've seen this so much. It's like the challenge. This needs to be delivered tomorrow. But everyone's looking at each other about how is that even possible? We don't have the right skill sets. We haven't been trained on that. We haven't done that. Now, I'm a big fan of stretch goals. I think, reach for the stars. Everything's possible in that sense. But we want to be setting our people up and setting ourselves up to succeed, not to feel anxious because the challenge is way too high and we're way too underskilled. So keeping that in consideration all the time for yourself and for the staff that you're with. So if you are working for yourself, make sure that you're setting yourself up to succeed with that right level of challenge and the right level of skill. Now, another really, really cool topic that comes out of the positive psychology world when it comes to strengths, engagement is strengths. Where did this come from? We're not talking about like lifting and bench pressing here. We're talking about strengths in the sense of character strengths. We could be expanding it to talk about all kinds of strengths, your strength and skill sets. But for this particular discussion, we're bringing it down to character strengths. So Dr. Seligman and Dr. Peterson at the time, they had worked on what was called character strengths. For those who do know a bit about psychology and do know about the predominance of looking at people's mental illnesses, all that comes into a little Bible that they call the DSM, the Diagnostical Statistical Manual, where it's like, oh yeah, you have this, you have this, you have this, you have this. What this was a very brave and forward-thinking approach to flip it on its head and do the opposite of the DSM. And they created this the character strengths in order to start measuring what is going well with people. Now, they did this in a way that worked with your values. It sort of rolled up into values, and we call it, there's an organization out there, VIA, Values and Actions, that offer, that put together this character strengths assessment. And there are 24, which we're going to go into the next slide, just to give you a bit of a broad overview. Why strengths are so cool to be considering bringing into the office place as a positive psychology intervention or a practice is that you can use it very easily for strengths-based coaching. Now, everyone's going to come with, everyone has problems. This is just normal. You can't avoid problems. It's how we deal with them, and what kind of way are we going to look at them? What lens are we going to use to address them? If we can address them by using our strengths, that is extremely engaging. How engaged would you be if I was your boss and you came into my office and you're like, oh, I have a problem. And I said to you, well, that's your problem. You're obviously not good enough at what you're doing. So I suggest you go and fix what's wrong with you. Yeah, probably not, right? Now let's rewind and start that conversation again. If you came into my office, and you said, oh, I have a problem. And I said to you, oh, okay, this is interesting. You have a problem. Let's see how you can solve it by using your strengths. Have you, me being your manager, I would probably, hopefully know your strengths, and I can suggest those strengths to use. Or you can do an inventory of your own character strengths and embed them into the discussion. We offer a link to do your own character strengths with the VIA character strengths survey. We'll probably have it in this as maybe a little link on the video, or we'll have it in the in any of the descriptions where we have this podcast or videocast, so that you can actually take it. Maybe it takes about a half an hour, not even, probably 20 minutes. You can do it in any of your own languages. I encourage you to do it in your mother tongue, because it's always important to know yourself best in your mother tongue. And then it pops out with all of your strengths. So once you have those, you look at your top ones, and this is what we really want to do, is focus on what you're doing well. What are your real deal strengths? And incorporate them into a strengths-based coaching approach to resolve your problems. Now, when people are working to their strengths, what happens? More engagement. This is this whole discussion. And why? Because the minute I say, hey, you're really good at this, wow, people light up. But if I say, you really suck at this, they're probably, kind of in a bit of a downer there. They're not really feeling up and good about it. What I find the most impressive about strengths, because I'm a big fan of engagement, but I'm a bigger fan of team engagement. I really feel that in the future, this is what the focus is going to be on. It's not just the individual, no man or woman is an island. So focusing on engaging the entire team is what I feel businesses are going to move towards. Higher team engagement is a definite result of incorporating strengths-based approaches in the workplace. Now, by highlighting everyone's, for example, character strengths, which is a free assessment you can do, by at least highlighting those top strengths of everybody, what we see happen is that people can converge on that topic of their own strengths. I'll give you an example, a real deal example. And one of my client sites, we go in and did the VIA character strengths, gave everyone their top 5 strengths, and then I was able to pull together and create a kind of a macro view of all of the team's strengths. So let's say one group was maybe 12 people. You're looking at it now, you're seeing there are so many similarities. So for example, the group leader with the individuals in their team are going to have similar strengths, because you're sort of attracting those strengths into your team. And then as a team, you may have a team strength. Like everyone might be really good at being brave, at which point I would put this team in kind of in a more R&D setting where they're really brave to push the limits and get out there and try things. Or opposite, actually, let's go right into, so that you have some live examples here from the character strengths and virtues. These are the 24. As I was saying, in reference to a team, they can have a mesh of maybe they're very kind, maybe they're very fair, And what's cool about that is once these things are made public, it's like a badge. People actually feel good. It's not like, oh, that's the, so-and-so is the one who's always late. So now we're talking about what they're actually doing well, which gets them excited and gets them more engaged at work. What I found as feedback from clients that was really powerful was that individuals and teams were able to cross-pollinate and strengthen the cross-functional team spirit, because they were able to interact and talk about each other's strengths when it was made public knowledge. So let's say you had a finance department and a marketing department. No, let's back up. My favorite. Let's say you had business and you have IT. There's always a big cultural divide there. So, but if business individuals and teams in the business world department and teams in the technology department were able to show and demonstrate their top strengths, and there happened to be strengths that people coincided with, that creates a bridge. And creating a bridge is what we want to engage people to work together, to engage them to complete their tasks and go on to achieve. And when they are achieving, they're also feeling pretty good, right? I talk about that often. You're getting that dopamine hit every time you reach goals. So the downside is when we're disengaged, everyone's kind of in a bit of a dopamine hangover. They're not getting anything. They're not completing anything. They're just spinning from meeting to meeting to meeting and leaving very, very drained. For those who are viewing, sorry on the audio, but I'll try to describe this as much as possible. One very, very, well, I mean, I could say it's pretty interesting, but at the same time, the feedback came back. So clients were really, really into this strengths plant concept in the office. For one of my clients, after doing their workshops, what we did was we put they wanted to have something to encourage the learning, and we designed this specifically, and it went off. Everyone loved it. So what we're looking at here is a potted plant, a very resilient plant, because the last thing we want is we don't want people to, sort of have their plants die on them. So we keep that very resilient, and inside the plant, we have these sticks that are pointing out and calling out the employee's top 5 strengths. So now you've got this kind of gift office desk plant that goes in the corner of the employee's desk. It's pointing to them, their top 5 strengths, reminding them that they are, they're pretty good. They've got these strengths to bring to the organization. It's keeping them engaged. It's reminding them as what I like to call a positive primer, in order to prime them to use their strengths to solve problems instead of just kind of backing down. We also, once again, the cross-pollination, people are coming from other departments and they're starting up conversations. It's a great icebreaker. It's like, oh, wow, look at this plan at your desk. Oh, so what are they? Oh, these are your strengths. Oh, you like teamwork. Okay, well, maybe the next time we have something, I'll get you involved in the team so you can help out, etc. So it raises the engagement of the individual, builds the team engagement up, promotes a strength-based approach, and it gives life to the office. Plants are beautiful. They're giving off oxygen. They're cleaning off the air. They're kind of, I want to say, bright. They put a smile on people's faces, and they promote the concept of nurturing and growing in a developmental way. Now, for organizations who are serious about developing their employees, having a plant at the desk encourages them to take care of themselves, take care and develop themselves for the betterment of the organization, not just them. It's a great win-win. I just want to stop and ask, do we have anybody out there who's, because I think when I'm in my presentation mode, I can't really see what's going on the chat. So I'm just going to check in with you, a little finger on the pulse. Do we have anybody who has any questions, any comments? How are we doing so far? Okay, it looks like we're doing good. Then I'll I'll get back into the presentation mode and just finish that off. Now to end, well, not to end, but to kind of wrap up a bit, I wanted to share something really interesting that we just finalized our case study for our last client, which was a 3-month rollout of a training program bringing in positive psychology tools through workshops and one-on-one coaching with the leaders into an organization. And I'm pretty happy about it because you've got the feedback. This is now data. And for those who are not necessarily aware of the extent of positive psychology and how it is as a science, the reason why it's scientific is that it's measurable, right? It's not just hearsay here and there. It's stuff that's it's gone through a rigorous process. And from my perspective, from our business perspective, when we go out and when we're with our clients, we really want to make sure that we can, I don't want to say prove, but I'd say demonstrate the effectiveness of what's going on and have that feedback. Because it's crazy at the end how much feedback you get. And without the feedback, where are you going? You're just driving into nowhere. But when you get feedback, then you can check in. Oh, okay, I'm a bit too much to the left, I'm a bit too much to the right. And the feedback comes from the data. So when we do these trainings, what we're doing is we're putting out scientifically validated questionnaires to track the difference between we'll say the delta from a pre or baseline we'll create pre-training, and then post-training, we re-baseline, and we're able to see the difference. So for this, we'll be publishing this case study soon on our website. We're just waiting to get client approval. And what we can see, what I can share with you at least today, was from this particular client who was an information technology head office here in Montreal in the retail industry. We had a sample of 33 people that we went through, predominantly male, 24 males, 9 females. And the ages, lots of millennials going into only a couple in the 40, 50 range. What I can say at this point, because I'm just waiting, like I said, waiting for the approval to get it out, and we'll probably put a link to the case study for those who are interested. The big ticket item here was team engagement. Collaboration just went out the roof. When people start bringing this humanistic psychology back into the office and start giving people these tools to get engaged, then engagement goes up. But just sort of screaming at your workforce saying, why aren't you engaged? What's wrong with you? I don't know if that's really going to work. But for those, we don't judge here. So whatever works for you, works for you. We like to take a bit of a scientific approach and actually have the findings. So what I can share with you at a high level is that stronger team spirit, 88% agreed from our participants. They were more optimistic after the training, 85% agreed. And these new tools for workplace well-being and self-management, 80% agreed that they got from these new tools and training of positive psychology and incorporating it, whether it was the flow conversation, whether it was strengths, etc., mindfulness. Throughout these throughout these video casts, we're going to keep introducing topics. Remember, the goal here is to get people on board who want to converse, who want to chime in and give their stories. I know we have a bit of a quiet group today, which is fine. But our real goal is hearing from other people's stories. Continuing on with the findings, these were now scientifically validated tools coming out of the research world of positive psychology. We saw a 5% increase 3 months after we did the training for 3 months, and then after. We noticed a 5% increase in workplace well-being, flourishing. We noticed 6% increase in positive feelings at work, and this is massive, a 12% decrease in feeling angry at work. And the anger comes from that frustration. The frustration bubbles up from being disengaged so often. Lastly, a favorite of mine, satisfaction at work went up 9%. So this is, conversation around, sometimes it's just about perspective. Sometimes it's about people feeling more empowered to be able to make their own day engaged and not have to wait for others to do it. So if we all had the choice to be satisfied or not satisfied at work, I would like to believe that we're choosing to be satisfied. It only betters ourselves as well as bettering the organization. We've got, so how do we stay engaged? A little question in general. Okay, so in general, for to simplify it, I want to recap as well. So what did we talk about today? We talked about engagement as being in the zone and being really immersed and absorbed in what you're doing, where you're feeling energized. To do that, we can look to our strengths. That's a big ticket item. Whether it be your character strengths, whether it be any strengths, follow what fuels you, what you're doing really well at. And I love the concept of like cross training. I used to do some CrossFit, and I get it. Like it's a bit challenging. However, it does bring results because you're kind of cross training two huge muscle groups together to getting increased gains. If I apply this to a mental strength program, then we're taking we're possibly taking one or multiple strengths to cross train. So let's say you want to bring up your strength of teamwork, because for some reason your teamwork's a bit low, but your high strength on perspective and humor. Well, you can cross-train those two strengths of yours, perspective and humor, when you're in the team, to use different perspectives that you see and apply a humor filter to get more involved with the team and become more part of the team, and at that point, raise your strength of team spirit. So a couple of tips, like I said, get on your strengths. Focus on strengths, not on your weaknesses. We also covered the state of flow, which is making sure you're setting yourself up with a high level of challenge and a high level of skill. So starting, let's say you're just about to do your I don't know, new project plan, for example, and you haven't read the briefing, you haven't met any of your major stakeholders to hear their side of what's going on, you haven't really seen the budget, but you just jump in and start doing a project plan. Well, you're probably not skilled enough at that point because you haven't received enough data to have your skill up. So you would kind of toggle that, make sure that you're bumping up your skill so that it's really high to deal with that high challenge. And if it's not challenging enough, if you know, then tweak it, make it more challenging. Ask for more challenge from your leader or ask yourself. The real deal is the more you can find that sweet spot that we saw, which was that high level of high challenge and level of high focus, level of high skill, that's where you're really going to stay engaged. So I hope that answers that question. Looking around for any other questions. I don't think we've got anything on the board tonight. What else can I share? We're gonna put all of the notes, so links to whatever we can share with any of the topics that we've talked about today. We really want to get that exposure. We want to get the conversation growing and popularizing it. So we'll put the links in the descriptions. We'll send you out that link to your opportunity to do your character strengths, which I would definitely advocate anybody who's listening or who's watching, take the time, 20 minutes, and you're going to feel awesome to see your strengths. We're so used to checking out our weaknesses. And I know what you're going to do. You're going to be like, oh, let me go to the bottom. What am I weak at? What am I weak at? It's a bit of a human nature thing, but you're still going to feel good knowing what's at the top. And then you can start spotting them out wherever you see them. We're like, you're doing something. Oh yeah, I can tell. Like, for example, off the top of my head, my 5 strengths: social intelligence, perspective, creativity, humor, and I'm missing one, hope. Never leave home without it. So we covered flow, strength, putting all the links in. And what I really want to do is call out and challenge people to write in their questions. We are now building, if you go back to the registration webpage where we have our video cast registration, we built it up. We're using that growth mentality, right? So we're here to get better as we go. And that vision for us is that we have a really rich conversation on Monday evenings where people are open and they're talking and they're telling us their challenges, they're telling us their what's going really well at their work, whether interventions like this are actually happening, whether their bosses are saying, yeah, let's use your strengths. A big thing now is task crafting. So this is like, creating what needs to be done by knowing the people's strengths, as opposed to this has to be done and we're going to fit you into it, whether you're good at it or not, and get it done. So having that forethought to flip it around, look at things differently, and actually design for your employees' strengths, I see that happening in the future, 100%. Lots of resources I can share. If anyone asks, just let me know. So send in your questions, send in your stories. We can share them as well. And on the registration page, on the right-hand side, you will see, you know what, let me take 1 second here. I think I can still have it open. Okay, maybe not. I invite you to go and check at our register. We'll put the links for register and you'll see. And we'll also have the past recordings. So every time we do this, we record it, we edit it up, put it up, audio for our podcast fans, because I'm a podcast fan too. It's like, you're cooking, you're doing something, you're listening and learning at the same time. It's that passive engagement. And some of them are really interesting. I hope ours is going to become as intriguing as many of the podcasts we listen to. And for those who like the video flavor, we'll have that too. In the video one, we'll be able to have our video annotations in YouTube to send you to links, because we've got other videos on exploring more about flow, about strengths, etc. If you're interested in that strengths plant conversation, how to set that up for any of your clients or for your organization, hey, let me know, because it makes people feel good at work. And that's what we're here for. We're here to challenge that status quo, because happiness creates success as well. So work on the workplace well-being. Work on it one step at a time. Today was engagement. Next week, I believe our topic is going to be around mindfulness, taking some time and space to reflect and not just be reactive, and how that affects the brain. I'm hoping to have a local CEO here in Montreal get on board. I'm just waiting to confirm that. So it'll be exciting. Hope to see you there. I'd like to thank all of you, listeners, viewers, everyone. Please, if you really think this is value add, share. Sharing gets the word out, and this is an important conversation to grow. We want people to feel comfortable talking about mental strength, really, and we call it positive psychology, call it whatever you want, call it feeling good. We just want the opposite of being stressed out at work. There's just no need for that. We're all professionals. We can get it done. Breathe, smile, and deliver. Once again, Jason, host of Brain Advisors Videocast Series. We're here each Monday evening, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope to see you. Hope you're going to engage with us, and hope you stay engaged. Take care. Thank you.